Citizens are erupting across China. Police are beating and arresting people, but more citizens are protesting against the CCP. The golden era of Chinese illegal labor is ending. Japan, South Korea, Russia, and more countries crack down simultaneously. A small Pacific nation can't stand it anymore. Palau's president declares confrontation with China. Really stepping back? Shocking reports claim Xi's power struggle failed, with 3 escape plans in place. Chinese students caught in the middle, amid US-China confrontation. You're watching Decoding China, where we bring you timely analysis and grounded perspectives on today's China. Conflicts between officials and citizens are erupting across China. Police are beating and arresting people, but more citizens are protesting against the CCP. China is experiencing an unprecedented wave of unemployment as its economy buckles under authoritarian rule, with growing clashes erupting between officials and citizens. People are being beaten and arrested by police, and increasing numbers are rising up in defiance of the government. Online, some describe the job hunting situation as millions scrambling for scraps. Those who fail starve. Those who succeed are sickened. Others share countless comments beneath videos, revealing the dire state of the job market in major cities. A career counselor working at multiple universities in top-tier cities such as Shenzhen, Shanghai, and Hangzhou spoke out anonymously. With 8 years of experience helping graduates polish resumes, contact employers, and attend job fairs, he now admits that this is no longer just about job placement. It is a systemic social crisis. He explained that schools are under strict political orders to falsify employment data and prevent students from voicing negative opinions online. In 2025, China saw a record 12.22 million graduates, 430,000 more than the previous year, flooding an already saturated labor market. The government claims the youth unemployment rate has dropped to 14.5% and promotes policies like million youth upskilling, entrepreneurship support, and boosting consumption. However, insiders reveal these are fabricated numbers. In reality, the true unemployment rate exceeds 50%, as the definition of employment includes low-paying gigs like food delivery, ride-hailing, or live streaming, even if earnings are below 1,000 won a month. Shenzhen, once hailed as China's Silicon Valley, has become a graveyard of shattered dreams. A computer science master's graduate who worked on multiple AI projects submitted over 500 applications, received only 5 interviews, and landed no job. Today, he works as a temporary laborer in a warehouse, 16 hours a day, earning 3,000 won, often unpaid. Out-of-town students are crammed into damp basements, surviving on instant noodles and hiding the truth from their families. Even a Tsinghua PhD now drives a Didi ride-hailing car and sleeps in it, smiling outwardly while breaking inside. Shanghai, once a glittering financial hub, has become synonymous with despair. Many graduates of Fudan and Tongji universities now deliver food by day and sleep under bridges at night. Hangzhou, once the e-commerce capital home to Alibaba and NetEase, has also collapsed. Live stream e-commerce is saturated, platforms are cutting staff, and graduates are left adrift. At the same time, the real estate crisis deepens. Since 2022, mortgage boycotts have spread across more than 80 cities as developers delayed housing deliveries. The government promised reforms, but millions of families remain trapped in debt. Citizens now face unemployment while burdened with housing, car, and education loans. 1 year without income is enough to break a family apart. Experts warn that deflation is taking hold. Weak consumption, precautionary savings, failing corporate cash flows, and rising bankruptcies fuel higher unemployment, creating a vicious cycle. Society is growing increasingly tense. Many young people choose to lie flat, live off their parents, play video games, or even pay to rent office space just to pretend they have jobs for their family's sake. Some have committed suicide, leaving letters condemning a deceitful system. Meanwhile, the government doubles down on surveillance, censorship, and repression. Streets are filled with cameras, police, and checkpoints. Even small protests are swiftly crushed. In Beijing, near Jiangguomen, dozens of citizens confronted soldiers at a barricade. A delivery driver was shoved to the ground, residents filmed and shouted in protest. But police quickly suppressed the crowd, arresting protesters while protecting the soldiers. In Guizhou, hundreds of residents in Huaguoyuan protested extortionate parking fees and violent property management. Instead of justice, they were beaten and arrested by police. Women and the elderly were shoved to the ground, and even those assaulted by property managers were treated as criminals. Videos uploaded online were quickly deleted, and resident chat groups were shut down. From Shenzhen, Shanghai, and Hangzhou to Beijing and Guiyang, the same story unfolds. An economy in freefall, mass unemployment, a collapsing property market, and mounting street clashes. Outwardly, official data paints a picture of stability and growth, but beneath the surface, ordinary people are drowning in despair. Ordinary citizens ask for little: a safe home, stable work, and basic respect. Yet even these modest hopes have become luxuries. The cries of protest, from Huaguoyuan to the streets of Beijing, are not isolated incidents, but the roar of millions pushed to the brink. Without genuine reform, today's stability is nothing but a fragile facade. Beneath it, unemployment, debt, injustice, and repression pile up like a volcano, ready to erupt. And when that eruption comes, no force will easily extinguish it. The golden era of Chinese illegal labor is ending. Japan, South Korea, Russia, and more countries crack down simultaneously. A viral story has sparked heated discussions. A Chinese woman was smuggled from China to Japan, caught at a subway station, and subsequently deported back to China. Her prospects are bleak. She will likely be labeled an illegal immigrant for life. This case is just one of many, highlighting the increasing crackdown on Chinese illegal labor abroad. A recent viral video showed a Chinese woman being escorted by several Japanese police officers at a subway station. The uploader explained that she was caught working illegally, though full details remain unclear. This was not an isolated incident. Recently, Japan arrested multiple Chinese nationals for illegal work. On September 23rd, a blogger working at a clothing factory in Japan revealed that more than 10 Chinese workers, including people she knew personally, had been deported for taking second jobs in violation of visa rules. These individuals already had primary jobs but worked side gigs, and they were eventually detained. The consequences extended beyond the workers. Their bosses and businesses faced closure after being reported. Deported workers may also face fines if their violations are severe. Under Japan's Immigration Control and Refugee Recognition Act, any paid activity outside the scope of a visa is illegal and subject to deportation and penalties. Due to labor shortages, the number of Chinese immigrants in Japan has surged in recent years, making them the largest foreign resident group in the country by 2024. However, this has also fueled a rise in illegal employment. Immigration data shows that in 2024 alone, nearly 19,000 foreigners lost their residency status for working illegally, with a significant proportion being Chinese. Many had entered Japan on technical intern or student visas before slipping into unauthorized work. This issue is not limited to Japan. South Korea has also tightened enforcement, particularly after Jeju Island opened its doors to Chinese nationals without visas, leading to a surge in illegal workers. Authorities now conduct random street checks, catching illegal workers in public. One Chinese woman described being held for 7 days in a so-called black room with 8 other women before being deported. She shared her fear that simply walking down the street or eating at a restaurant could result in being asked for ID and detained if unable to show legal documents. Some workers said they had paid tens of thousands of yuan to be smuggled into South Korea, but after only a few months of work, before repaying debts to relatives or agencies, they were caught and deported, leaving behind shame and financial burdens. Some even risked their lives to cross the sea. On the morning of September 8th, locals on Jeju Island discovered a rubber boat drifting ashore. It carried a 90-horsepower engine, 12 fuel barrels, bread with Chinese labels, fishing rods, and life jackets, but no passengers. Police later confirmed that the boat had been used by 6 Chinese men to illegally enter South Korea. One man was arrested and admitted he had paid hundreds of thousands of Korean won, roughly several hundred USD, to an intermediary in China. He revealed that he had previously overstayed in Jeju in 2017 and was deported in January 2024, meaning he could no longer enter legally. The arrest followed a tip-off from a taxi driver. Police also detained a Chinese woman in her 50s who had overstayed in Jeju and was acquainted with the man, handing her over to immigration. Investigations into the smuggling ring and other suspects are ongoing. Beyond East Asia, cases of Chinese illegal workers have drawn attention elsewhere. In Thailand, individuals have been filmed being locked in small rooms by immigration officers after suspected illegal entry. In Russia, once a popular destination for Chinese workers due to visa-free entry, the environment has changed drastically. Russia launched a fall crackdown in 2025, tightening visas and reducing quotas for foreign labor permits, the introduction of real name registration for phone cards, and biometric identification linked to personal social security accounts exposed untaxed Chinese workers, landing them on blacklists for entry bans. Meanwhile, in areas where Chinese migrants gather, Russian police reportedly extort money daily, creating unbearable pressure on Chinese-run businesses. For many, life in Russia is difficult, but returning to China means facing even fiercer competition. Other regions also reflect growing hostility. In Hong Kong, a group of 15 Chinese construction workers, earning up to 60,000 HKD a month in luxury renovation projects, were all deported after being caught, with their foreman fined more than 30,000 HKD. In Australia, a Chinese roofer proudly shared how he undercut market prices, charging only 20,000 yuan for a job that normally costs 50,000 yuan. His video drew outrage, with many comments blaming such undercutting practices for disrupting markets and fueling resentment. In Africa, Chinese workers are even selling roasted corn at $1.50 per cob, undercutting locals and displacing long-established Indian and Pakistani traders. Egyptian tour guides have also complained that unemployed Chinese migrants have started working illegally as tour guides, taking away their livelihoods. This has led countries to increasingly restrict Chinese workers. Singapore, starting in September 2025, has expanded recruitment of affordable labor from Malaysia and Southeast Asia. Israel is preparing to open 100,000 slots for Indian workers after the war. Japan began bringing in Vietnamese and Southeast Asian workers 3 years ago. Canada is now saturated with Indian international students. With fewer options, Chinese workers abroad face shrinking opportunities. As one blogger concluded, Chinese workers bring fierce competition wherever they go, yet many lack legal status. Combined with geopolitical tensions, stricter visa requirements, and declining quotas, the golden age of lucrative overseas jobs for Chinese workers is likely coming to an end. A small Pacific nation can't stand it anymore. Palau's president declares confrontation with China. According to defense reports, the Chinese Communist Party is actively courting Pacific Island nations, including the Solomon Islands, host of the Pacific Islands Forum, PF. Due to Beijing's successful pressure, Taiwan, the United States, and Japan were excluded from the meeting held from September 8 to 12, 2025. Before the forum began, Palau's president Surangal Whips Jr., a PIF member, publicly accused Beijing of attempting to undermine Palau's leadership and weaken public trust in its government. Speaking in Hawaii on September 8th, he also charged that China had funneled drugs into the island nation to destabilize society, comparing this tactic to Beijing's actions in the Golden Triangle, where it has long used drugs, gambling, prostitution, human trafficking, and organ trade to manipulate local authorities. Earlier, in late August 2024, President Whips Jr. also addressed the International Military Law and Operations Conference hosted by the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. He stressed that Palau was facing intensifying economic coercion from China. Chinese investors had acquired long-term land leases of up to 99 years, leaving them unused in preparation for military purposes. Whips Jr. declared that Palau was effectively in a state of war with China and argued that the only way to resist was by strengthening partnerships with like-minded nations. Palau's location is regarded as strategically vital. Situated in the Western Pacific, the country consists of about 340 islands covering 459 square kilometers. Formerly part of the U.S.-administered Trust Territory of the Pacific Islands, Palau became fully independent in 1994 but maintains a compact of free association, COFA, with Washington. Palau lies within the framework of the U.S. island chain concept dating back to the Cold War. The strategy divides the Pacific into 3 defensive chains, stretching from Japan, the Ryukyu Islands, Taiwan, and the Philippines, through the Ogasawara Islands, Guam, and Palau, extending all the way to Hawaii and Alaska, functioning as unsinkable aircraft carriers to block Eurasian powers from projecting into the Pacific. In recent years, Beijing has attempted to break through this defense perimeter. It has increased its military presence in the South China Sea and applied gray zone warfare tactics, such as using civilian aviation as cover. For example, China unilaterally altered flight paths near the Taiwan Strait, undermining long-standing unwritten agreements. In December 2024, Reuters reported that nearly 90 Chinese naval and Coast Guard vessels had been deployed around Taiwan, with 2/3 being warships. Chinese aircraft sorties surged far above average, raising concerns that Beijing was preparing to impose a blockade on Taiwan. Palau, due to its proximity to Australia, has also become a target of Beijing's expansionism. President Whips Jr. has repeatedly expressed outrage, noting that China is even purchasing land near U.S. military facilities and using crime-linked developers as proxies. Mihai Sora of the Lowy Institute stated that Palau has long been at the forefront of Beijing's coercion in the Pacific. Taiwan, meanwhile, has expressed solidarity and continues to support Palau in fisheries, healthcare, tourism development, education, cultural exchange, marine conservation, and maritime safety, all welcomed by Palau. In stark contrast, Beijing has been accused of exporting crime and instability. In February 2024, Cleo Pascal, a researcher at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, FDD, revealed that President Whips Jr. had written to a U.S. senator urgently requesting COFA aid. The letter warned that Beijing had offered to fill Palau's hotels with Chinese tourists if the nation cut ties with Washington and Taipei. Whips Jr. emphasized that Palau had already provided land for U.S. missile and radar installations, declaring that no ally in the region is as close to the U.S. as Palau. He cautioned that unless Congress approved COFA assistance, pro-China elements within Palau could gain the upper hand. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump has been seeking stronger alliances in Europe to counter China. On September 16th, during a visit to the United Kingdom, he announced plans for U.S.-UK cooperation on artificial intelligence and nuclear energy, technologies critical both for defense and for reducing Europe's reliance on Russian energy. Trump even mentioned plans to re-establish U.S. control of the Bram Air Base in Afghanistan, located near China's Lop Nur nuclear test site. Analysts believe Washington may be positioning itself to pressure Beijing from both eastern and western fronts. Yet, a 2025 report by Rand Corporation highlights significant obstacles to Beijing's military ambitions. China is aging rapidly, its youth population is shrinking, and recruitment for the People's Liberation Army is under strain. Childhood obesity and asthma rates are rising, while economic challenges, corruption, inequality, and social unrest weigh heavily on the country's future. Without strong and sustained economic growth, China risks falling into the middle-income trap, making its dream of building a world-class military far more elusive. This report underscores a stark reality. While Beijing seeks to expand influence and disrupt the balance of power in the Pacific, small nations like Palau are caught on the front line. At the same time, China's own demographic, social, and economic limitations could significantly constrain its path toward regional or global hegemony. Really stepping back? Shocking reports claim Xi's power struggle failed, with 3 escape plans in place. The balance of power within the CCP is shifting, and international media have noticed a clear trend that Xi Jinping is gradually transferring authority. Recently, some foreign outlets even reported that Xi is stepping back to the second line. At the same time, leaked information suggests he has already prepared 3 escape plans, should he lose in the ongoing power struggle. Against this backdrop, Premier Li Qiang's recent visit to the United States drew significant international attention. The Associated Press reported that this trip clearly signaled Xi's reduced role on the global stage, delegating appearances to subordinates. Neil Thomas, a fellow at the Asia Society Policy Institute, observed that Li Qiang could become the key interlocutor for foreign governments and corporations in their dealings with Beijing. Instead of traveling to the U.S., Xi chose to attend the 70th anniversary of Xinjiang's establishment as an autonomous region. Strikingly, he did not deliver any speech, leaving the remarks to CPPCC chairman Wang Huning. Commentator Chen Pokong noted that Xi's recent trips to Tibet and Xinjiang resembled a farewell tour. He argued that military affairs are now managed by Zhang Yuxia, party matters by Kai Chi, and government affairs by Li Qiang. In other words, Xi has already relinquished authority across the party, the state, and the military. Analyst Tang Jingyuan added that unlike Mao Zedong, Deng Xiaoping, or Jiang Zemin, who were able to control the party from behind the scenes thanks to military power, Xi no longer has such leverage. His loyalists, such as Miao Hua and He Weidong, were purged once Zhang Yuxia took control of the military. Without the army, Xi cannot dominate from the shadows. The upcoming 4th plenum in October has therefore drawn speculation over whether Xi will relinquish additional posts and whether a successor will emerge. Meanwhile, North Korean Foreign Minister Choi Sun-hui's visit to Beijing from September 27 to 30 raised eyebrows. Sources revealed that beyond the public narrative of Sino-North Korean friendship, the talks also touched upon an extremely sensitive issue: the possibility of Xi Jinping fleeing to North Korea if turmoil breaks out during or after the fourth plenum. Analysts highlight two advantages of seeking refuge in North Korea. Geographically, Pyongyang is close to Beijing and easily accessible by air, land, or sea. Xi reportedly remains haunted by the fate of Lin Biao, who fled northward and was shot down. Politically, North Korea is considered safer. Unlike Russia, whose leader Putin is bogged down by sanctions and war, North Korea is independent, nuclear-armed, and under little international pressure. A source even claimed that Xi paid Kim Jong-un $100 million during the September 3rd military parade, further cementing their brotherly ties. Reports suggest that the fourth plenum will, in reality, focus on power transition rather than just economic issues. Rumors indicate Xi may surrender 2 posts, retaining only the presidency. Should his grip collapse, the Xi faction could disintegrate, leaving him vulnerable to political reckoning. To prepare, Xi has allegedly mapped out several plans: escape routes by air, land, or sea, political arrangements after arriving in North Korea, financial guarantees, which may require him to bleed heavily again in concessions, and strategies for explaining his flight to the outside world. Some analysts argue that leaking this information was itself a warning to Xi's rivals. Beyond Russia, he also has North Korea as an option. It was described as an open threat, a counterstrike before the plenum. There are even claims that Xi's removal at the fourth plenum has already been informally conveyed to Central Committee members. Former President Hu Jintao reportedly advised that the reshuffle was unavoidable, but all changes would be provisional, to be formalized at the 21st Party Congress. Among the anticipated adjustments, Wang Yang is rumored to become interim general secretary, a choice acceptable to all 4 major factions, as he is not perceived as a threat. Candidates for interim premier include Wang Yang, Hu Chunhua, Chen Jining, and Yuan Jiajun, with Hu Chunhua considered the most likely. All these developments point to one conclusion: the CCP's internal power struggle has entered its most volatile stage in years. Chinese students caught in the middle, amid U.S.-China confrontation. Restricting the infiltration of the Chinese Communist Party into American universities has become a bipartisan consensus in the United States. As U.S.-China tensions continue to escalate, Chinese students studying in America are finding themselves caught in a difficult sandwich position. This past August, a Chinese student surnamed Gu, who'd been awarded a full scholarship at the University of Houston, was interrogated for 10 hours at the border before being deported. He was also barred from entering the U.S. for the next 5 years. The focus of questioning by customs officials centered on his ties to the CCP. Shortly afterward, the U.S. Department of Education issued new guidelines to universities nationwide, stressing the risks posed by China. Alex Wu, a Chinese student at a university in California, said that strict checks have become commonplace. Several of his friends had been taken to private rooms for questioning, lasting between half an hour and an hour. Another student, Gang Lutao, shared that the atmosphere on campus is clearly affected by the strained relations, with many becoming more cautious when talking about China, since most Americans do not like communism. A survey released by the U.S. Migration Policy Institute, MPI, revealed that a majority of Chinese students feel discriminated against. Nevertheless, 48% of female respondents and 40% of male respondents still expressed their desire to remain in the U.S. Alex Wu noted that many students from middle-class families are unwilling to return home, as jobs in China are demanding, poorly paid, and advancement is difficult without strong connections. In the past, students returning from abroad were often considered gold-plated, but now they are frequently viewed with suspicion about their political loyalty. In reality, one of Wu's friends was even suspected of being a spy by Chinese police while riding the subway. His phone was checked for foreign apps such as Twitter or Telegram, leaving him with lasting psychological trauma. Meanwhile, since 2024, many Chinese provinces have changed their civil service recruitment policies, explicitly restricting returnees from applying, leaving many feeling as though the sky had fallen. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has also emphasized that Washington will aggressively revoke Chinese student visas, particularly for those linked to the CCP or studying in sensitive fields. American scholars point out that Chinese students are, in fact, also victims of this regime. Professor Zetian of the University of South Carolina stressed that only by clearly recognizing that the CCP is the root cause of all these problems can Chinese students in the U.S. truly find a way to save themselves. Your feedback matters. Share your views in the comments. If this content resonated with you, we invite you to share it with your network. Your continued support empowers us to pursue independent, high-quality journalism. Subscribe and like to stay up to date with Decoding China. Thank you for watching.